good evening or morning or afternoon or mid-sunset. I don't know when you're watching this. And yeah, excuse me, off to a flying start. So I've got another beer review, and this time we're going over to Baron Brewing out of Hertfordshire. And this is a can of the Day Tripper, which is 2.8%. So Day Tripper is a low in alcohol but high in flavour, brewed with lots of wheat and oats and dry hopped with plenty of US and New Zealand hops. Canned straight from the tank, no fining, no filtration and no pasteurisation. And yeah, artwork comes courtesy of Harry Wild. My sort of beer label. I love a good hand-drawn illustration, and it works wonderfully. It really, really does. On the platform isn't the right word, but on a can of beer. And speaking of Harry, this was kindly picked up by the wonderful Harry from Bluenose Beer Reviews, who made an order with these guys and then set some cans aside for me and Adam, aka Mersey Beers, and of course Harry is Bluenose Beer Reviews. So this is the first of, I think I've got 3 or 4 cans from these guys. Adam kindly dropped them off. Did I say Harry Wild? Or did I just call the artist Harry as if I know him personally? But yeah, I just love stuff like that. It's just fun. It's unique. And yeah, it's my sort of illustration. So yeah, 500ml can. So I'd imagine this probably falls under the moniker of a table beer. We shall see. Oh, it's lively. Very lively indeed. Not too much gush. And the only glass I've got to hand is an already used Cloudwater glass, which housed a Cloudwater beer, a double IPA from Cloudwater, one of Bluenose Beer Reviews' favourite breweries. Anyway, we won't... spilt a bit more. We won't get into that discussion. And low battery, even though I'm plugged in. So it's saying my phone's charging, but my battery's depleting as it's charging, which is always a good sign. And yeah, hey ho, it is what it is. It'll probably do you a favour if this cuts off part way through, because who really wants to sit through a clueless drinker beer review? I know I certainly wouldn't. I've started doing a podcast / radio show recently, and it's bad enough having to hear me try and be funny and interesting in audio form. So actually seeing me as a physical presence is a completely other kettle of ugly overweight fish. But anyway, I digress. I've got fancy glasses though, and I do look quite artistic, although you could probably replace the R with a U. Anyway, beer in the glass then, and yeah, it's definitely got that lower ABV hoppy sort of beer presence. Definitely reminds me of a bit of a hazy table beer, but I'm not sure, as I said, until I've tasted it, and I've done no research whatsoever, if this is indeed a table beer or not. But it certainly does look like it, and yeah, with it being hoppy, because session IPAs don't really delve that low in terms of ABV. Not to say there aren't really low ABV session beers, and I found 2 shards of glass on my floor from when I dropped a glass. God knows when. And I think it's safe to say I'm festering in my own filth at the moment, especially in this corner, which I use to like shoot beer reviews, because I've not really recorded many beer reviews, and you might have noticed a little bit of a lack of content on the channel. Although I have recorded like 2, 3, 4 reviews prior to this in the past sort of like 3 weeks. So yeah, it's sort of been neglected. So it's Saturday today and it's going to be Sunday tomorrow. So I think it's about time that I just gave this little spot a little bit of a clean. Oh, look at that. The rats are actually watching me do a beer review. There are no rats, okay? I'm not one of those people that you see on TV who has to literally climb over like a pile of newspapers just so they can get to a filthy cooker. Although I do kind of look like I'm either an artist or I'm just an eccentric homeless person. Either aesthetics would suffice. With a vintage adult erotica behind me, because I'm just a pretentious hipster twat, but I think that's why people like me. You've got to have some form of quality, and if Adam from Mersey Beers is watching this, he's probably thinking, you're being too self-deprecating. Don't be so self-deprecating. But that's part of the fabric of the clueless drinker. Self-deprecation is key, because if not, I would literally drive myself to insanity. And that is so what's the word, annoying when people do this gesture as they are talking. Anyway, beer looks good. This review's a train wreck already. Doesn't really matter. So we'll give it a sniff. It's definitely got that sort of like grapey, dry. I said grapey. Grapey, dry, sort of New Zealand-esque hop aromas. Like a muskiness. I'd say it's a little bit more herbal on the nose as opposed to fruity. It smells nice though. There's like a little bit of a mellow citrusy element there. I can't define what citrus fruit that would be. But you know what? You get the nice, crisp, cracker-like malt carrots coming through. Excuse me. Disgusting. Yeah. It's got a subtle aroma to it, but what you get there is really nice. And I need to stop doing hand gestures that resemble a masturbation signal. Masturbation signal. If only the Marquis de Sade could have come up with that term. Or Freud. You're not well read. You're not an intellectual. You're just a poncy twat. So just shut up and drink the beer. Cheers. Ooh. For a 2.8% beer, the body on this like I said, very active beer. I mean, it's been in the fridge for over a day. It did travel all the way from whatever shithole Bluenose Beer Reviews lives in. This, like, it's just all like fields and farms and, you know, people wearing rugby style sweatshirt, like long sleeve shirts, who, you know, probably, I don't know where I'm going with that. It's just basically having a dig at Harry from Bluenose Beer Reviews, but I love him. I love him. So it's travelled from there. Well, obviously it's travelled from the brewery to Harry. Harry's forwarded the beers. I think he drove them to Adam, because we had a bit of a meet-up in Liverpool, which was absolutely wonderful, by the way. Done it again. And then, of course, Adam has then forwarded said beers onto myself. So they have been disrupted. But anyway, back to the beer in hand and slightly on the floor and on my Uniqlo, not quite joggers, not quite chinos pants. You could not be more pretentious if you tried to be. I think there's a reason why people think I'm fundamentally a complete wanker, but I own it. I own it. Anyway. It's definitely got a pronounced sort of like pronounced light maltiness to it. Not quite in like a lagery sense, obviously. But I wouldn't say it's like really sort of like overtly hoppy. By the way, this isn't a character. This is... I'm not like trying to put a facade on. Facade on sounds like hard on. But, God, I've only had a double IPA today and I feel a bit pissed. Yeah, it's not like really like hoppy, but it's hopped just enough. There is definitely a grape-like flavour. But that being said, although I associate like a drying character, excuse me, with New Zealand hops, me, an intellectual, it's got a grapiness, not too dry. How would I describe this beer? I don't know. It's really moreish. It really, really is. Again, with how we're brewing beers at the moment, you would not think that this is a 2.8% ABV beer. You'd think that this was like a 3 or 4% pale ale. It really has that sort of character. Nothing's like bam in your face or anything like that, but it's so drinkable. It really, really is. It's a camp, and it's got that. It sounds like such a cop-out because it is a cop-out. It's got like a very sort of like generic beer fruitiness to it, but it's not a generic beer. It's actually a really tasty, really satisfying, thirst quenching, easy drinking beer that you don't have to think about. You know, not every beer that you have to try or drink has to be like in your face. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like a praying. It doesn't have to be like a massively sort of like getting a bit gruff. it doesn't always have to be like a big, bold flavour. Do you know what I mean? But it's flavoursome. But I'm trying to like pinpoint specific fruity, herbal, malty characters in this review. So therefore, as a character in this monstrosity of a beer review, I mean, have you seen what's wrapped around my neck at the moment? Grapey. There's subtle hints of, like, it's not really citrusy, not really tropical. I know there are other elements of fruity characters you get from hops. Oh my God, this is an awful beer review of a really, really good beer. And I think like the prices are really good as well. I don't think Harry, like, I don't think it broke, what's the term? I don't think it's... When you make yourself laugh in your own beer review, you know you are just deranged. And I think for the last 2 minutes, I've not looked at the... I'm so sorry. Yeah, this is actually just a really good drinkable beer. It's sort of it's just coming to my mind. It's sort of like a it's sort of like it's sort of like reminds me of like a little brother of Sonoma. I don't know why that's funny. I just don't understand why that's funny, but it really, really is. Yeah, it's got quite similar flavours, almost. But no, genuinely, that's a really lovely, low ABV, hoppy beer. And, yeah, can't fault it. I really can't fault it. That's really, really nice. And, I definitely think you should look up... God, that makes me look slightly muscly, doesn't it? That go look up Baron beer, because this is the only beer I've had from them, but you should look them up anyway, and this is really good. I would happily... a mini keg of this would be perfect. It really, really would. I'd love to have this, like a pint of this on keg or cask. But yeah, just a really nice low ABV beer, and testament to the fact that excuse me, you know, just because it's low ABV doesn't mean it's not going to be a flavoursome, enjoyable beer. Yeah, very much looking forward to trying the other beers. Harry from Bluenose Beer Reviews, very much high praise for the ones that he's had, which are the ones that he's sent over as well, because he did a bit of a bulky order, because he's a bit of a bulky guy. Had a very intimate moment in Liverpool with Harry, but he doesn't really want me to talk about it.